Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 10 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Craig Erlich, the president of BRIX Holdings, the parent company for Red Mango, Smoothie Factory, RedBrick Pizza, and Super Salad. And we're going to speak with Craig on how BRIX is positioned in the healthy food market and the healthy portfolio of brands they have built. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you are listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 10 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting Craig Erlich, the president of BRIX Holdings, the parent company for Red Mango, Smoothie Factory, RedBrick Pizza, and Super Salad. Hi, Craig. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marty. Thank you for having me on the show. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Craig. This is my pleasure. We always like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning, Craig.
In our corporate headquarters in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, fantastic. And how's the weather there today, Craig?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
That's terrific. I thought, maybe we could start off talking a little bit about the history of BRIX Holdings, Craig, because I know you have an interesting history.
Yeah, so definitely. BRIX Holdings, we're a multi-brand franchising company. We specialize in food service chains. And with superior products, obviously, in the Better For You segment, obviously, with what we're going to touch on today. But really, Our mission is to provide, superior franchising opportunities. We focus on brands that are attractive, but also growth opportunities, all within that Better For You segment. We started, actually, as Red Mango. Obviously, we purchased a controlling interest back in 2010. In 2013, we had acquired the Smoothie Factory brand, the RedBrick Pizza brand, and also early 2014, the Super Salad brand.
That's great. And that's where you got involved too, Craig, right? I mean, you were involved with Red. I know when you started with the company, I believe you were working with Red Mango, weren't you?
Correct. So I started my career with BRIX or Red Mango in 2013. I was brought on board as more of an operations person, and obviously as we continue to grow, had my hands in pretty much everything throughout the department.
Sure, of course, absolutely. That's terrific. What's the advantage, Craig, of having? I imagine that there's some advantages of having like a family of franchise concepts. We've done this is like our 550th show. And over the course of time, we've had some franchises that I guess you can consider they have a family of brands. What are the advantages of having multiple franchise opportunities under one umbrella?
Great question. I think, with BRIX, we have a guiding principle of, concept optimization, brand development, and then the growth infrastructure. What helps us by having multiple brands is really when we get to leverage distribution and procurement services, marketing services. We do still keep each brand individual and try not to, we don't look to bleed any kind of development within each brand. However, I think, from an infrastructure standpoint, you definitely gain some opportunities that will help the franchisees.
I guess it's interesting too, because when you have your prospective franchisees, it's nice that, some of them do have, different choices when you have that umbrella. Craig, is maybe one franchise may not be a perfect match for them, but there are other opportunities that they might want to consider as well. Does that ever happen?
Absolutely. In fact, we have, within our portfolio, if a franchisee is an existing franchisee that's interested, obviously, in running a well-run operation within their brands, they have the opportunity to expand with the same discounts of the second and third store operations that they would receive as if they kept it within the same brand, within the BRIX portfolio. We also, in development and discovery days, when we meet with the potential franchisee, sometimes when we try to match their goals, they might have been passionate about one brand, but after discussing with them, what their ultimate goals are, sometimes we feel that, or we talk about, other brands that may suit their needs as well and maybe a better opportunity for them.
That's terrific. In each brand, they have there's similarities as far as, the categories that, of course, BRIX Holdings is interested in, but they also have their differences. I know that Red Mango recently celebrated, it was your 10th anniversary, which is it's pretty much, it's always a big milestone in franchising, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, very much so. We were proud of that. Yep.
That's terrific. How do you describe, I know it's tough to talk about all of them, but, maybe some of the differences between, for our listeners, as far as describing Red Mango or Smoothie Factory or RedBrick, give like a basic description of each.
Sure. Well, in Red Mango, and I think one of the things that we're most proud of is in 2013, 2014, we always intended Red Mango to be a good-for-you, healthy option eatery.
Right.
In other words, we didn't envision Red Mango to just continue to be a frozen yogurt shop. As we started to develop new menu options and offerings, we wanted to make sure that they were modular. So in 2010, you also saw the increase or the additional offerings of smoothies. In 2013/2014, we expanded into juice and small cafe healthy options, and all were modular. We were able to put in these offerings within the existing locations as well as continue to build out into the new locations.
And there was some what really caught my attention, I was reading, I think it was in a press release, Craig, it was talking about how you were expanding in non-traditional locations. I think gyms might have been one of them. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so as everyone knows, it's all about location. Even the best of the best, businesses sometimes are not as successful because of the location. I think with a non-traditional or special venue location, you get a captive audience. We've been in that space for a good number of years where we were able to, I would say master, but I think we've done a really good job in a few things. We work on efficiencies. Obviously, like I mentioned, all of our offerings are modular, so in those spaces, sometimes you have compromised spaces and sizes that you need to be able to fit and match. I think another piece is speed of service. It's a much different operation when you're dealing with a kind of a quick serve get them out, high velocity, high volume location.
Right.
And then obviously the other piece is the complexity and challenges and understanding of the relationship. So in some spaces, like in airports or in gyms, you're dealing with probably 4 or 5 different decision makers within the organization. So you just have to know how to navigate around that. So those are some challenges, but I think we've done a really good job with it, and that's where our expansion has been most coming in the last couple of years, and including this year.
That's terrific. I know that RedBrick, I think it's RedBrick Pizza, they're debuting a new prototype at the end of the year as well, Craig. You would talk a little bit about that? I think that's in New Jersey, which I'm originally from, by the way.
Oh, great. Yeah. So North Brunswick, New Jersey. We should be opening
I know that.
right before Thanksgiving. We're excited about it. When we acquired the brand, one of the things we wanted to do is get it more to a theater-style setup and layout. So the benefits of that are, and I come from New York as well, so the worst thing you want to hear from a pizza shop is, I just put a new pie in, and you have to wait 15 minutes for it, right?
Of course, right.
With the new design, you're essentially following your pizza throughout. So the time from making to baking to eating is really within that 5 to 7 minute space, but it doesn't feel like that, and you get to watch your pizza down the line. You pick out your dough, you follow it around, and you pick out your toppings and your fixings. We have, we have regular pies, but then you can make your own as well. And then we also have salads, fresh made to order and tossed on site. So, we have fazzanis, we have calzones. So we have a nice array of. It's just not pizza. And again, you can get to watch all of that being made right before your eyes.
It's part of the experience, isn't it, Craig? In being able to do something like that, and people like having that choice today too, don't they? They feel more in control, and it's part of the experience, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think there's 2 pieces. When we were looking at other brands, the first thing, and I say unanimously, all of the partners agreed on the food, the quality of the product, the taste of the product. Hands down, we fell in love with it. Next aspect, it's very difficult to change the food. It's very easy to change the layout and aspect and the experience, from an ambiance standpoint. So changing the experience was an easy one. Falling in love with the food was obviously our guiding principles on how we started with these brands.
You're part of a very big industry, Craig, and I think what's even more important is that there's a lot of growth, it seems to me, in your particular industry, isn't there?
Yes. So, in the yogurt space, and again, I don't look at Red Mango as necessarily being just a yogurt competitor. It's still, frozen yogurt's still a $2 billion industry.
Sure.
I think what people are seeing is a consolidation of organizations, and again, it might change the name of one location to another, but I think overall that's been pretty stable. I think that the growth is still there, obviously on the Red Mango side, in the growth into the non-traditional markets and special menus. We continue to grow. The RedBrick Pizza, that industry is just blowing up. I think when you look at the industry as a whole, since 2014, 2015, the industry has grown, and really what's led that growth are the chain pizza shops. They now account for about 61% of the total market. So you could see a nice shift of the chain restaurants. And I think the other interesting piece about pizza is that, there's some statistics out there where 63% of pizza lovers are women. And the average customer now is health conscious and works out twice a week. So you're starting to see people are talking about health. There's more people identifying themselves as a foodie, and they are well educated on what they're eating these days versus maybe 10 years ago.
That's terrific. What's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since becoming the president of BRIX Holdings, Craig? I'm sure you had a lot of experiences and stories, but does anything stand out?
I have to tell you, in my career, I don't have the traditional franchise background. I mean, obviously, I've
Right.
been in the retail segment and
Right.
big corporate America, but I have to tell you, the organization, we have such passionate people that work for us, and including franchisees. So I think it's, for what's happened to me, it's just very rewarding to work with the same individuals every day, and they work nonstop for the success of the organization, but more importantly for the success of the franchisees. So every day is, what's going to happen next in a positive way. So
Right.
for me, it's just been really nice to work with these individuals. I think that we're starting to see all of the fruits of our labor. I think in 2014, 2015, spent a lot of time on, redesigning locations, revamping product development. So everything really this year is coming to fruition. We're, very excited, as you mentioned, the opening of our new design in North Brunswick for the RedBrick Pizza.
Right.
So just really exciting things to actually see it happen.
That's terrific. And it sounds like it's a culture too, at BRIX as well, which is just, partly attributed to yourself too, being the president of the company. But it sounds like there's also this wonderful culture at BRIX as well, isn't there?
Yes. Everyone is positive. Everyone is passionate. I think that, there's no one individual in our organization that just doesn't know what the common goal is. And
Right.
everyone respects the fact that a franchisee is the most important person in the organization. We do everything every day to make every decision to support our franchisees, which ultimately support the organization.
You were talking about your franchisees, Craig. What do you look for? What does BRIX look for in selecting a franchisee? Are there particular types of characteristics that you look for?
Good question. So obviously, we want to share that passion. We want someone that's obviously looking, not just an investment. We want somebody that's actually
Right.
looking to, they've done the research on the brand. So when we meet someone on a discovery day, the anticipation is that this person's done their homework.
Right.
They're able to tell us what our guiding principles are and the reason why they feel that that's the right fit. I think, the right infrastructure, someone
Sure.
that is able to build the business and sustain it. They might have a GM in mind. They might have a family member in mind, but somebody that's not just going to go into this alone, and someone that's
Right.
really going to have that support team behind them, I think is really important.
That's true. It's kind of like a test, isn't it, Craig? When they come in and, see if they can answer those important questions. You can tell, can't you, if they've done their homework?
It's interesting. Sometimes potential franchisees come in and they're nervous.
Sure, of course.
Try to make sure that they say the right things and they
Right.
believe in the same things that we do. At the end of the day, and really what we try to do is our executive team, at least the majority of the time, is present on a discovery day so that we can meet with the potential franchisees, because we want to make sure that, we're matching the right franchisee with the right brand and somebody's going to be good
Right.
for us, in the long term.
That's terrific. What is the training like, Craig? Once you decide, that you do like them, and they like you and they want to come on board as a franchisee with one of the brands, do they typically come out to Texas then? Is that where the training happens?
Well, we have training facilities throughout. So,
Okay.
each brand, obviously, we have training facilities throughout the country. I think one of the things that is a differentiating factor is if someone doesn't have a restaurant or food background, before
Right.
the training even begins, we have them piggyback or shadow an existing franchisee so that they understand what it's like. So that by
Right.
the time the training starts, the retention of the material is so much better, and
Sure.
setting someone up for success is so much greater when you do it that way. On the flip side, if someone has other brands and they've already, been experienced in food and, they already come in with an advantage and they just need to learn, kind of the culture and the operations, which makes it a little bit easier too. So those are probably the two biggest pieces, to get training done properly.
That's terrific. So they don't necessarily have to have a background in the restaurant industry, Craig. Like, we, again, in doing so many shows, we've had some franchises on the show, that have said, well, you have to have a background in the restaurant industry. Otherwise, you can't be part of our brand. It sounds like with BRIX, though, I mean, they do have that option, someone who, again, has that passion, and they have this appreciation for the industry and the brand. You would consider taking them on, the just going to get a little bit more training, it sounds like.
Yeah, with the right, outlook and attitude and goals in mind, I think there's nothing that would prevent someone from being successful. I think, that's why franchising is the way it is, it's somebody that can't, start their business on their own. They don't have the know-how, whether they're in the food business or not. That's where they learn. They have, and it doesn't stop at the training. It's after. We have field managers that constantly visit the location. We have enough data and follow-ups where we know the trend of the franchisee. Whether it's customer comments and feedback. We have loyalty programs where we can gauge the success of that location. So there's a lot of things that we do as a follow-up. A non-food person, sometimes might even respect that process a little bit more than someone that, may think, well, I've done this, been there before. So, so I think there's a balance, but I think, everyone has an opportunity, and our goal is to make everyone successful.
That's terrific. And, there's, again, I was mentioning earlier, Craig, there's a lot of similarities in the brands, So, I mean, in describing like a typical day for a franchisee, I guess it would be, of course, a little bit different, based on the brand. But, I mean, maybe if you could, describe a typical day for one of your franchisees.
Depending on the brand. So, for instance, in a Red Mango, obviously as we shifted to the juice, smoothies, and healthy eateries, obviously we open up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the goal there is to capture the customer before they go to work so that they can get their offering. So generally that would start, about an hour before they open to prepare. Some of the par levels and prep is done the evening before. Obviously, the yogurt machines, there's a schedule, whereas twice a week they would clean out the machine. So whether it's done late at night or early in the morning, we just, that's one of our requirements. So from a prep standpoint, I think that's the Red Mango brand. I think on the RedBrick Pizza, obviously the dough is made daily. So there's some prep work to be done there. And, toppings, all of our toppings are made fresh on hand. Each day, so we don't get slices. Everything's done in-house. Smoothie, super salad, same thing. All of our soups are made on premises, and which led to our new design last year with our newest red super salad. The soups are actually made in front of the customer because we never really got enough credit for making the soups on site. So now the soups are actually made up front and the customers can see it. It also gives a little bit more of an opportunity for better customer service if somebody has a question. And then Smoothie Factory, same thing. We open up at 7 a.m. Generally we're getting the people from the gyms. I think from a prep standpoint, Smoothie Factory customers, they know what they want. They're very catered on, what they consume. So I think, from a standpoint of just from an education and speed of service, they want to come in, they want to get out. So everything is done early in the morning, and obviously late at night is good clean and prep for the next day.
Right. And it's interesting in your business too, Craig, and you've experienced being in operations, this, all of the brands, you have this opportunity or this wonderful opportunity to get that repeat sale. And of course, it's a bit easier to build relationships with your customers, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a few things, with a better for you concept, which all four of us are, it gives an opportunity for more frequency with those customers.
Exactly.
And, you get to know your customers. So, and it goes beyond that. We have loyalty programs in each one of our brands where we get additional data to see what shopping patterns are, frequency, what they like when they come in, how often. If they haven't been in the location in quite some time, we have some data where we can reach out to that customer and make sure that they know that, keep us top of mind.
Sure.
So knowing the customer, absolutely, and then the frequency certainly helps in a better for you environment.
That's terrific. Have the brands utilized the technology, Craig, over the last several years? I know technology just seems to be moving so fast today. How have the brands implemented technology? It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, so we actually launched an online ordering portal for, we have a Raw 6 program, which is a daily program for our juice program in the Red Mangoes. So, one of the things that we're doing is obviously this year all of our brands had switched to a new POS platform where the functionality will integrate with the rewards programs and the loyalty programs. But in addition to that, the technology for order online, order in advance, all of those things are very important because, again, you start to take the seasonality out of the challenges because now customers can get it at any time. There's delivery options, all of those things, and I think everyone's kind of doing it. Everyone's rushing to market. I think the piece is just doing it right and getting a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, the POS technology is really fascinating, isn't it, Craig? I had a guest on the show, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he was a much older gentleman. I want to say he was probably like in his 60s, and, when he started getting into the whole website thing, he didn't think anyone would ever actually order from like a website, and he was shocked to see how many people this is the way it is today, and it really is exciting, and it certainly helps your franchisees. You've been doing this for a while now, and you've worked directly with a lot of franchisees, Craig. From all your experience, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Most of them are in this like beginning phase where, they're exploring franchising and, there's so much out there today. So from everything you've learned, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
I think, first and foremost, obviously do your research. You want to make sure that you're matched up with a brand that, has the same goals in mind. It's funny, there was just an article that was posted about, the reason, advantages of buying an up-and-coming emerging franchise and the flexibility that is afforded that way. And I think, we're very, for one thing for us, we don't, if a franchisee has a question, they don't call into a recorded line. They reach out to somebody live. They have that emotional connection with anyone in our organization. I speak to franchisees on a daily basis. My executive team speaks to franchisees on a daily basis in addition to everyone else. So all of us, it's an open dialogue. I think that's important. And then, respect the customer. I think with your comment about, the POS age and IT and, millennials are very in tune to these new advances. I mean, one of the things that, especially in the pizza business, they're saying that the millennials after this year are actually going to outspend baby boomers in the pizza segment. So you have to respect trends, and you have to respect the customer and be aware of the customer of one. That one customer that requests something, and then you change your platform. I think just to make sure that you respect your customers and the trends, and make sure that you do it well. I think if you're committed to flawless execution and engagement with your customers, I think that is the recipe for success.
Yeah, I think that's terrific advice. I like that word, flawless execution. I think that's a great word. So as the president of the company, I could ask you the next question, Craig. Where do you see BRIX Holdings, maybe if you could look into a crystal ball 3 to 5 years down the road, where do you see the organization?
I definitely see growth in all of our brands. I think that, obviously the pizza being a $50 billion organization market, I think that we could we could definitely penetrate that very well. I think with our new design and some of the things that our product development team is coming up, we definitely have strong goals for that organization. I think the Red Mango will continue to grow as we continue with our offerings. Smoothies are a hot topic right now. Smoothie Factories are still doing very well and continuing to grow there. And then, on the Super Salad, again, those stores, restaurants continue to do very well. And I think our franchisees in all of the brands are helping us in that growth. So I think all of our brands, we're very optimistic. Like I said, all of the things we've been working on the last year or two in design and product development are finally coming to fruition, where we can then start to look to 2018 and 2019 as our really big growth years.
That's terrific. Do you see, Yum brands, like I know, they've, a lot of times they'll have sometimes their family or brands like in the same location. Craig, do you ever envision that type of concept, or nothing like that in mind? You just treat them separately?
Well, we do have a franchisee that's in Lindale, Lindale, Texas. He's going to he is going to be building a RedBrick Pizza and then a Red Mango right next to it. So it's in the same shopping center.
Right,
now, within the same location. We had in 2015, we had experimented where we had Red Mango franchisees that wanted to co-brand with Smoothie Factory, just to get the word smoothies on the building. So we have about 20 of those that had co-branded. Again, I think there's always an opportunity. Our goal is obviously to keep them separate, but certainly we're very flexible in terms of what's going to be right for the franchisee and what's going to be right for that location. So I never say never. I think there's always going to be an opportunity. So
that's terrific. And I had to tell you too that Super Salad is such a clever name, isn't it? When I said who gets credit for that, I said it's just so clever.
I wish I could.
It's great marketing though. It's really a fantastic name. What's the best way for our listeners, Craig, to get more information, on any of the family of brands under BRIX Holdings? Is there a particular website that you'd like them to go to?
Well, I think BRIXHoldings.com is primary, and then you can break down each of our brands from there. Obviously, the Red Mango .com, the Smoothie Factory, the RedBrickPizza.com, and SuperSal.com is each individual. But I think BRIXHoldings.com would probably be your best first-time shop, and then break off from there.
That's terrific. I want to thank you again for coming on the show, Craig. It's funny, I detected a New York accent when you came on the show, and I was expecting a Texas accent, so, which is why I had to ask you where you're from. I said, it sounds like he's from New York, but, I picked that up right away. So, but it was great.
I am starting to get my southern twang, though. I say y'all.
You are, okay.
So I'm getting there.
That's fantastic. Well, it was a privilege to have you on the show, Craig, and I'd like to invite you back, as BRIX continues to grow, and I'm definitely going to check out, that the new franchise in North Brunswick, because I'm not that far from there. I'm right on the edge of New Jersey, so I hit that area every so often, so I'll check that out around Thanksgiving.
Love to have you out.
It's been great having you on the show, Craig, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. We've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and you can actually hear the show in a number of different places today. You can go to, of course, franchiseinterviews.com, where we have our interviews arranged alphabetically. We also have interviews arranged by category. So if you have a particular industry that you're interested in, you can go to the category of your choice and check out all the different interviews that we've done over the years. Our show's been syndicated in a number of different places. Of course, you can hear our show on blogtalkradio.com. We've been working with Blog Talk Radio for many years now, and you can hear the live shows there, and then you can download them as an MP3. You can hear our shows on Stitcher.com. You can hear our interviews on, I think it's pronounced, I always want to call it Blueberry.com, but it's BLUBRRY.com, which is another podcast service. You can now hear our shows on iTunes.com, and of course, you can hear our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you're a diehard fan to our show on Live365.com. And we have over the years over 420 shows. So if you were to listen to Live365.com for 2 weeks, there's a chance that you may not even hear the same show twice. So that's how many shows we've recorded over the years. But today's Great Quote and Franchising podcast comes from Darren Guccione, and Darren is the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc. And what's interesting about this podcast, we had Darren on the show as the founder and the creator of Keeper, which is the world's most downloaded passwords manager and digital vault. And Darren is a real entrepreneur. And one of the questions that we ask on the show is, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur or franchipreneur or someone looking to buy a franchise? And that question is usually directed to someone who has been directly involved in franchising over the years. But again, Darren is a real entrepreneur. His background is in accounting and business, and I thought his response was just as great as anything that we've heard on the show. So here we go with Darren Guccione, the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc.
Amazing. It's amazing technology. In studying your background, Darren, I mean, I was mentioning earlier, I mean, the majority of our listeners, again, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. You know, they want to go into their own business, and they're kind of like heading towards the franchise alternative. What advice would you give to them? Because you're certainly, in studying you, certainly classified as an entrepreneur. So what advice would you give to them?
Well, my background is engineering technology. I'm also a CPA, and I've always had an admiration for franchises. One of the things that I love about franchises, among other things, is that you can analyze the different franchise models that are out there, the brands, the type of businesses, and you can quickly identify which ones are successful. And typically, they give you a roadmap of what you need to do to execute. When you start a business without a franchise roadmap, you typically don't necessarily know where you're necessarily going to go or wind up. And so you get a greater sense of security and guidance when you can pick a franchise model that, A, fits within, your goals in life, your interests in life, and B, provides a really sound infrastructure for you to build a business with a great support system around you. Most businesses that are one-off businesses don't have that. So there's a greater sense of, uncertainty out there when a business owner or an entrepreneur, as you've outlined it, decides to, pursue a franchise versus doing something completely fresh and new. I think the risk profile of doing the latter is much greater. So that's my response to that.
It's fantastic advice. So any final thoughts, Darren?
Fantastic interview with Darren Guccione. So I want to thank everyone for making our show such a success, and this podcast has really just taken off over the years, and we got some really great quotes in franchising coming up. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.